rotation on this car is just phenomenal. Oh, yes.
Already giving you the impression this thing just wants to turn into corners and go.
We present this 2011 Audi R8 LMS. That is something to behold, especially when you have a driver who knows what the hell he's doing. Welcome to Putnam Park Road Course. I'm Josh from MotorVault, and this is Measured by MotorVault. We are with Dan Clarke, professional racing driver, currently drives the Porsche Carrera Cup North America number 64 car, and he is here for a very special reason today, because we are going to be taking out this 2011 Audi R8 LMS ULTRA. These are truly, truly special factory GT3 cars. Dan's going to be driving this car. He knows quite a bit about racing. So tell me a little bit about your background, where you got started, and we're going to dive into a little more of this car after that.
Yeah, I started racing go-karts when I was 8 years old in the UK. Did that for about a decade, and then did about a decade of open wheel racing then. That brought me through UK, Europe, and then IndyCar racing in the US. And then after a couple of years in IndyCar, Indianapolis started to feel like home. And I've now been there for nearly 20 years. Putnam Park, where we are today, is kind of one of my homes where I've been fortunate enough to be the resident pro coach here for the country club. And in and amongst that kind of work, I've also been coaching a lot of guys in GT cars, and over that time, I spent a lot of time driving different GT cars, and that's kind of brought me to racing in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series for the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024.
Well, with your GT experience, especially recent GT experience, the car behind us has a little bit of GT history as well. The R8 LMS ULTRA is the second iteration of the first-gen Audi R8 race car from 2012 to 2015. This one was a standard R8 LMS that got the ULTRA upgrade. So more power, better aerodynamics. And I know aerodynamics are a huge key in motorsports, and that's why these cars were so dominant in 2012 when the R8 LMS ULTRA did come out. With that being said, you've dealt with an entire wide range of aerodynamics, downforce, all the way from the Champ cars that were extreme high downforce, extreme horsepower, to then your current Carrera Cup car, which has a good amount of GT3-like bodywork the entire 10 yards. But now this car, what are you looking forward to, and what are you anticipating with this particular GT3 car?
Yeah, it's a good point, because obviously it resembles an Audi R8 still, and that's a great platform of a car, mid-engine, super low profile, really well-balanced car. And then just visually right away, you can see this is not your average R8.
No.
And the sheer size of the wings, basically, the bigger the wing, the more downforce. And so when it comes to GT3 driving, the wings play such a big part in how much grip you then have in a lot of corners. As soon as you're, at 80 miles an hour or faster in a corner, downforce is at play, and essentially it's just sucking the car into the ground, pushing the tires into the ground. And so when you drive it, it really transforms the car. And quite often you find yourself thinking of the car as two different cars, depending on the speed of the corner. Slow speed corner, if you're first or second gear, you're really relying solely on the mechanical grip, which is the tire grip. And then when you're in third, fourth, or fifth, you're flying an upside down airplane. And so, it's now cornering way faster than you're used to. And quite often you experience a bit of self-preservation in that your brain doesn't really quite trust that it can go as fast as you can see the numbers on paper say it can. And so it becomes a little bit of a trial and error exercise in the beginning, but generally, as drivers go, the younger you are or the crazier you are, the faster you get to that limit.
And pushing hard.
Right.
So with this car, with this particular aero setup, I know you have driven this car before. How does this car relate to your current Porsche Carrera Cup race car?
Well, the Porsche Carrera Cup car is a different kind of entity altogether. It's designed for Porsche's famous Cup car racing series. So it's essentially, in a way, designed to only ever race against itself. You know, that's
right.
Their platform. It's tried and tested for nurturing young drivers, getting them ready for GT racing without all the bells and whistles that is GT3 racing. So yeah, this car is, if it were the same manufacturer, if it were related, it would be a much bigger brother.
Yes.
And yeah, there's a lot more thought going on in this car because the capability is so much more. And really, as a driver, any kind of professional driver, your task is to get quickly to those limits. Sometimes you got to do a bit of exploration and a little bit of trial and error.
Right.
But this car can corner at high speed a lot faster. It's, you know, the Carrera Cup car doesn't have the big front splitter.
Right.
It doesn't have, you know, as much of a wing or diffuser on the back.
Right.
This car really, you kind of have to, you get in and you have to go searching a little bit.
Absolutely. And this car, with not only all the aero, this car makes 570 horsepower, which is obviously a ton of power, and a V10, basically your stock 5.2 liter V10 that did come in the street cars, but then everything else in this car is absolutely to the max, which is really cool because the way that this car is set up, especially aerodynamically, kind of resembles the late 90s, early 2000s GT1 racing, which again, those cars were a little bit more unrestricted on power, but from an aerodynamic standpoint, we see where we've gotten, and it really, really changes the driving dynamic of these cars. And from your standpoint, Greg, going around this corner, where do you think this car is going to succeed the most around this track?
This car really, really stands out when you've driven a lot of different cars here, and I have all the way from, you know, old low horsepower street cars all the way up to modern AMG GTRs and the current Porsche 992 stuff. This car really shines at turn one. Turn one, a lot of cars here, minimum speed is around 70 to 80 miles an hour. This thing, I hate to think right now, ask me after I drive it, but it's a lot closer to 100 miles an hour minimum speed. And so basically your task is to see how late you can brake and how little you can brake at the end of that big long straightaway.
Incredible grip, incredible speed. I'm really, really excited to see what this car does because we're going to go out and we're going to test this thing's limits. You're going to do it obviously by yourself, and then I'm going to pop in for a lap or two. Since this car now does have a second seat in it, these cars didn't really come with those, but now it does. So for anyone that really wants to give somebody who's not a professional, like myself, and obviously Dan is the professional, give them the true on-track racing experience without having to worry about piloting it, and feel the cornering G-forces, feel the braking G-forces, because not many people get to truly experience that. And obviously you are very accustomed to this level of performance and driving, and obviously I am not. So it's going to be really wild to see the dichotomy of putting us together in this car. It's going to be truly incredible. So what do you think this car is going to drive like the most compared to other cars that you've driven?
I think firstly it goes without saying that, you know, when you look at the specs of what this car is, and you can see the kind of, you know, equipment componentry it has, it is on par with modern GT3 race cars. You know, they haven't changed a lot. You know, the horsepower isn't getting greater, and that's for a reason. There is a homologation standard for GT3 race cars, and it's been pretty similar for a long time. So this car is as good as anything current right now. Yeah, it's going to be a fast experience. It's one of the most fun cars I've driven around here before. So it's been a few years. I'm excited to get back in.
Well, let's crack the whip on this car. Let's go out and get you behind the wheel and then eventually get me in the passenger seat. So it is time to go on Putnam Park road course and see what this Audi R8 Ultra LMS can do. go. First time in a proper GT3 race car for myself. Riding with Dan Clarke here at Putnam Park. We're already getting the visceral noises, feels. Worse in second gear, about to launch here in a moment. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh my. Oh, this thing is dialed. Oh, the corner G-forces, holy. Whoa. This car feels incredibly comfortable and planted. Yeah, you don't get brakes like that on a street car. Oh my. The balance and the rotation on this car is just phenomenal. Oh yes. Oh my. I can see why you said turn one is going to be your favorite. This thing is on rails. Oh. Wow. Oh, this is completely different from anything else I've been in. The amount your body lunges forward under full braking is incredible. Yeah, I've driven this track in a spec Boxster, and I thought I was decent. This is a whole different ballgame. Oh, yes. Oh man, I could do that all day long. The switch back here in 3 and 4 is so hard to get right, and if you get it right, you can really put it down. Oh, wow. Those downshifts, the noises, so visceral, so brutal. Oh, this is incredible. A little bit more aggressive by a little, yeah, I expected this car to be truly wild, but just that extra raw, visceral, complete body shifting from the G-forces, from the braking, is that is just so hard to comprehend. Again, this is a GT3 car. I mean, obviously LMP cars and Indy cars are even more aggressive somehow, some way. But just that feeling, I mean, it's the complete opposite end of a roller coaster. I mean, it's something that you really don't feel too often. So feeling that for the first time is, it really just bends the brain. That's awesome. So this car, the more and more you hammered on it, I could tell you just kept on getting faster and faster. You really understood the aerodynamics of the car, the brakes of this car. Kept it so planted.
Yeah.
Yeah, the challenge with a car like this a lot of the time, when it has that kind of big potential and high-speed turn, is the challenge is the next lap around at that same corner. If you underdrove that turn, you got to remember what was the change I need to make this time, so that I don't overslow essentially.
Yeah, that finding the balance is incredible, and when you do, I mean, it is a thrill ride. There is no doubt about that. Getting a Le Mans size Le Mans kind of experience, feel wise, on a smaller scale like that is truly wild. I mean, it's even a workout just from sitting in the car for 3 laps as a passenger. And these guys are out here running full enduros in these cars. I mean, you have to be in absolutely tip-top shape. This is wild. Incredible. That is something to behold, especially when you have a driver who knows what the hell he's doing. So the R8 was out on track. I got a ride in this absolutely incredible machine with Dan driving, and well, Dan got my attention. I know those cars were going to be very, very impressive, but when those cars are fully on load, braking, cornering, it is truly incredible understanding the grip that these cars have. And Dan, from a driving experience, how was it getting back in this car and shaking everything back off?
It was fun. I mean, it's always fun to drive an awesome piece of machinery. Yeah. And it was fun, obviously, taking you out some laps, just because, you know, not everyone gets a chance to drive or even ride in a GT3. So
Right.
Sometimes you talk about the downforce. Well, now you finally got to understand what it feels like.
Absolutely. And I've never felt something like that on a road course. I've experienced it on an oval, but never on a road course. And when you are fully locked on the brakes, going down the front straightaway at 140, 150 plus, you're hammering on those brakes and sending that car in so quick, you really don't understand it until you go through it, because you think you should be braking and you think you should be braking, you're still not braking. And then finally, those rotors and those pads grab so hard. It is truly mind-bending. And going through something like that for the first time is absolutely wicked. So I appreciate you doing that. And that's a really cool thing with this car, is that it does have a passenger seat. So you can really go and put someone like myself, who's an enthusiast and has never experienced that, through it. And it's truly awesome. These cars have quite a racing pedigree. I know you didn't race these cars in period when they were running, but these cars have some serious pedigree. These cars in 2012, when the Ultra LMS did come out, won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring and Spa in the same year on debut. Team Phoenix Racing, which that shows that these cars, when they came out, were top dog. Truly incredible. So with the power this car has, I know you've driven higher power cars. Where does this kind of fit in with the rest of the balance of the car, with the lightweight, with it being mid-engine, kind of where does the power sit for you on this car?
I mean, when it comes to race cars, the power, usually people tell you there's never enough power in the car. Every race car, you always wish it had 20, 30, 40, 50 more horsepower. That's never enough. And then on the flip side of it is, sometimes if you got too much power, then it feels like your car doesn't have enough rear grip for it, right? So then, drivers will be complaining about that.
Yep.
Where this car sits is a kind of a nice balance with the mechanical grip. You get down full power and it's not trying to kill you. And at high speed too, it just grips and goes. It's really easy to drive. The biggest challenge you have is fighting what your brain is willing to accept or believe the car can do in the corner entry speeds, in the high speed stuff. Your own sense of self-preservation is your biggest limiting factor, not the grip, not the power. Everything here just turns on, works, and goes.
No, there's no doubt about that. When I was riding it, this thing felt so balanced, so under control. And again, at those speeds, is that it's very easy to not be balanced and not be in control. And obviously the driver comes down to a lot to it, but to have a car where you're able to understand it really well and be able to play around like that it's truly awesome. So again, we appreciate you coming out and driving the R8, putting it through its paces, showing us what this car is about, obviously taking me for a ride as well. So greatly appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing who ends up with this car next.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Yes.
The Audi R8 LMS has quite a racing pedigree, as from when it first came out in 2009, it was winning all across the world and really came to its true form when the LMS ULTRA came out in 2012. And this car has been converted into an Ultra after 2012. But in 2012, a few of these cars did win 24 hours of Nürburgring and 24 hours of Spa, two of the most difficult races in the world. And you could see why with this gorgeous, gorgeous shape, that 5.2 liter V10 making well over 550 horsepower, great weight distribution, and all of this great aero work, which was a feature on the Ultra with the huge wing, splitter canards up on the front, and your diffuser on the back. This car is nasty. It sounds great. It looks great. It has great track provenance, as this one in particular had some history in the Pirelli World Challenge running about in 2014. From the massive air dam up front to the FIA-approved Recaro racing seats to the removable rear glass and that crazy racing exhaust in the back, this is a proper GT3 car. It'll be a monster in vintage racing or at any track day you take this car to. MOTORVAULT is very proud to present this Audi R8 LMS ULTRA. If you guys like the content that we provide, give us a like, follow, and subscribe. And if you want to see more enthusiast vehicles like this R8 race car, all the other crazy stuff we have, check it out. We got more coming your way.